I'm here with Brett Hall today, and we are going to react to this video.
How are you, man?
Good, how are you, my man?
Pretty good. Are you a nurse, a doctor?
I'm a doctor, my man.
A doctor? For what?
In hospital. What about you? Where you from?
I'm from Israel, from the Holy Land.
You know what? I'm gonna be really honest with you.
All right.
I'm gonna be really honest with you. You actually got a really, really beautiful eyes.
Thank you,
but
man.
I'm so upset that you're Israeli. Like, eventually you're gonna get killed and you're gonna go to Jahannam, inshallah. Like, these pretty eyes, they should stay in this world for longer.
Why do you think? Why do you think I'm gonna get killed?
It's Palestine's country, not
Hello,
your country. You piece
how
of
are you?
shit.
What's your name?
One day, your time will come and you will die the most.
Why do they do that?
We spread.
Okay, why do they do that?
Bleep it out.
Because we need to know what she thinks about him.
Yeah.
So why? That's the whole point of the video.
Yeah, but I think we can guess. I think there are versions where you can find the uncensored.
Yeah, I guess they didn't want to just be. Anyway, all right, let's get. So they're
very comfortable to begin with.
Yeah, they're very comfortable.
Yeah.
He's lying.
Immediately, he's not actually a doctor. He says, I'm a doctor, but it turns out he's a nurse. They're both nurses. And the level of comfort they have in saying what they say to this guy is because of the level of tolerance that we have. I mean, you know, people refer to Popper as having a paradox of tolerance. You shouldn't tolerate the intolerant, but that's no paradox. That's just common sense. Of course you shouldn't tolerate the intolerance. But in Australia, like many other Western places, we've become so tolerant of things like this that they feel comfortable in saying directly to this guy's face that I would kill you. It gets worse.
Yeah, I really wish I had heard that because I'm sure it's particularly vile.
Listen to me.
Peace.
Listen to me.
And you spread
when your time comes.
How are you doctors? Wait.
I want you to remember my face.
Okay,
so
okay.
You can understand
Gotcha.
That you will
I have a question
the most
though.
disgusting death.
All right, for sure. I have a question though.
Yeah,
I have a question. Let's say an Israeli. God forbid.
I won't treat them. I'll kill them.
You'll kill them? So if an Israeli is in Australia and God forbid something happened to him and he comes to your hospital, would you kill him?
You have no idea how many Israeli Khara dog came to this hospital and I sent him to Jahannam. I literally sent him to Jahannam.
So he sent them to hell, he claims.
Wow. And he's a medical professional. He's a nurse.
Yeah.
And you're from Australia. You people tolerate that. You just you just.
Not only that, they are from a place called Bankstown Hospital. And when I was going through university, I worked as a security guard at a place called Bankstown Square, a large shopping centre. And there is a high density of Muslim people there. A lot of my colleagues who are other security guards, they tried to convert me. They would say things like, the Quran is the most beautiful book ever written. There's not one contradiction in the Quran. Of course, obviously complete nonsense. But since then, that was 20 years ago. And it's not like we've slowed down the rate at which, not merely do we have immigration from Islamic countries, but the existing communities that are there are becoming more and more radicalised. And ever since October 7, as we see right there, there's a level of comfort, as I say. It was within hours after October 7 that people assembled, Islamic people assembled on the steps of the Opera House in Australia, chanting whether it was gas the Jews or where's the Jews.
It was gas the Jews.
The police did
Okay,
nothing.
but let's say it's not. Let's say it's where's the Jews, because they're going to give them cookies and ice cream.
Yeah.
That's why they want to know where they are. Okay, so I know that somebody is going to watch that and they're going to think, oh, well, those are just two maniacs. The mainstream, like you would never find a single person who would support these lunatics, or maybe one, but you'd certainly never find a group. Okay, so the idea that these are just outliers, these are just truly radical aberrations, you know, this is in no way representative. No, you would forget a Muslim group. You wouldn't even find maybe one or two other people who are similarly deranged. No, nobody more than that. And then what happens?
We already know that's false. As I say, after October 7th, they were on the steps of the Opera House chanting, gas the Jews, or where's the Jews, whatever it happened to be. It's the one exception that is astonishing. It's not like people are going around saying gas the indigenous people. Where's the indigenous people? Where's the Chinese? It is the Jews.
Right.
In this case, actually, they didn't say Jews, they said Israelis. Now, again, within the context of Australia, it's somewhat different to what happens in the United States. Our media is wholesale, basically against, except for one news station, which is Sky News Australia. The rest of the media are wholesale against Israel. And so they will apologise for Palestinian violence, for the violence from Hamas, violence from Hezbollah, Iran, whatever it happens to be. And our politicians at the moment, the people who are in power, the Labor Albanese government, have not been strong at all. Albanese gets more upset at the economic policy of the opposition than he does about the treatment of Jews in Australia.
Okay, so to the person who says, "Oh, please, this is just two people. They may be on drugs or who knows." Okay, Claire Lehman puts out this tweet: 50 Muslim groups and leaders have come out in support of the New South Wales NSW nurses. Mainstream Muslim bodies and Islamic extremist groups, etc., have joined the Barracks to Towntown, the Unlikely Alliance, and it goes on. And then the second part of the tweet: the most revealing aspect of the reaction to the nurses' video is not the footage itself, but the speedy intensity and uniformity of response from certain political leaders and media outlets. It read, which was endorsed by more than 50 bodies or their leaders, ranging from small mosques to statewide or nationwide groups. Quote, outrage is manufactured when it serves a political narrative, with silence deployed when the truth might expose the complicity of those in power. Holy shit.
Now, why do they think that? They think that it is legitimate to hurt Jews. They think it is legitimate to attack Israelis, no matter who they are or where they are. They continue to use the word of genocide, okay? Israel's committing a genocide. We know that's false. We know that the population of Palestine has increased since October 7. I don't know if you were David Deutsch talks about what he refers to as the pattern. The pattern is this repeated phenomena that has occurred for millennia now of legitimising hurting of Jews. It's preserving the legitimacy of hurting the Jews. And so wherever, it doesn't necessarily result in violence, it doesn't necessarily result even in anti-Semitism, but it is this tendency of people, it's a certain set of memes that runs on almost everyone's mind, an irrational impulse to legitimise denigration of Israel, the hurting of Jews, because they're just Jews. No one knows why. Why are Jews singularly...
Yeah, they're uniquely...
It's a unique kind of racism. And so in Australia, of course, when people talk about anti-Semitism, what do the politicians do? They immediately say, well, of course, it's a serious issue, but what about Islamophobia? We also have to deal with that. It's always the whataboutism. And in Australia at the moment, Islamophobia, insofar as it exists, it's a rounding error compared to what is going on against the Jews at the moment.
Yeah, Jews were just attacked. Hasidic Jews were just attacked in New York by Hamas, not Palestinian supporters. This is different, by Hamas supporters. So I guess what I don't understand, okay, so for the billionth time, this is not all Muslims. I have to say that every time. But it's a deeply, deeply disturbing, non-trivial number of people. Deeply disturbing. And so I don't understand why immigration policies don't follow suit. Like, I just don't get it. We've seen it in Europe where large Muslim immigration is. Jews flee. Andrew Gold was telling me he wants to leave London. My Jewish friends there tell me that they're literally in fear. And when Reed and I were in New York, people surrounded a Jewish bagel, a kosher deli, and harass people for being Jews who were in there. Like, I don't understand. Well, actually, I kind of do understand, but here's what I don't understand. I have a hypothesis. Reed hates it, but I'm going to tell you what it is. Why do you think countries keep importing large groups of Muslims when they know the direct result of what it does to Jews? Why do you think that is?
Well, as I say, the pattern, but I'll give you two other possibilities as well. One is stretching back to the 90s and possibly before, and this will be more your wheelhouse than mine. This flourishing of cultural relativism, there's nothing particularly special about the West. There's nothing special about Australia, the United States, the United Kingdom. All cultures are ultimately equal. Therefore, all people that come from each of those cultures, insofar as they've got different ideas, who can judge which is a better culture? In fact, it is racist of you to say that such and such a culture is objectively a better culture, objectively a way of improving our circumstance. Some cultures exist in a state of stasis. They're unchanging. And Islamism, as a culture, as a religion, is prima facie perhaps the best example that we have in modern day of a culture that is unwilling to change. Insofar as it changes, it is glacial, and often there's regression. Why people are attracted into that particular ideology at the moment, when the option is to embrace a secular culture of improvement, of error correction, of increasing knowledge, I don't know. But there's something to say about a sense of community, and there's something to say about leaders within our own communities, public intellectuals, the education system, not pushing back and defending what's good about the Enlightenment and saying, Islam, isn't it wonderful? We're culturally enriching ourselves by bringing more and more Islam into our society.
Yeah, okay. So I'll say that could certainly be a causal explanation for this. When you look at rates of crime among immigrants, and again, I know that people are going to just listen to this and be like, "Oh, that's some like right-wing maniac." This is just what the data is. Like Eric Kaufman has the data. I mean, the data has, but we know what the data is. This is not a fiction of my imagination. Then they'll say that it's that, and there's probably some truth to this. They'll say that certain minorities are denied housing or employment possibilities. And I'm sure there's some, I don't know the data, but I'm sure there's some truth to that.
And historically, and so therefore there's a certain level of guilt, I think, that still exists among the population that stretches back generations. And to atone for the guilt of, for example, in Australia, having caused certainly mass murder of the indigenous people when Europeans first arrived, or the introduction of disease, whatever happens to be the displacement of the original indigenous people. In order to atone for that, because we can't bring those people back, why not import the rest of the world? And in that way, if we can just hurt ourselves a little by decreasing our net wealth, by spreading it around the globe, then in some way we've done the Christian thing. We're trying to be forgiven for the sins of our ancestors.
Okay, so let me throw an idea out to you, because I have thought about this, I've read about it, I've talked to people about it, and with all due respect, I don't think that explanation does it. I'm not sure my explanation does it either, so I'm going to throw something that's potentially crazy to you. I think at core there's a deep-rooted Jew hatred. And I think that the way, at some level of reasoning, they think, well, we need a final solution. We got to kill all the Jews. We can't kill all the Jews because of our messy history. So let's just import a bunch of people who we know want to kill the Jews. Like, there's just no, I mean, look at the video. Look at the people there's like no question they want to mass murder Jews. There's like genocide. They have explicit genocidal ambitions.
Yes.
So we can't kill our Jews, but we have a Jew problem. So we're going to import these people to mass murder them. And like, whether it's Claudine Gay at her testimony, one slight thing, where you're from, it's a microaggression, you're brought up in charges, but kill the Jews is great. Like, no matter where it is, this idea continues to rear its head. That's my working hypothesis. Now, I'm not going to get 5,000 people going to freak out about that, but that is my work. I can't think of another reason you would import large numbers of unskilled Muslim men into your country. Like, I just literally cannot fathom it.
And at least they're honest. At least we can spot them, and we can
100%.
They say explicitly what is on their mind.
100%. You got to give it to them for that.
In a sense, it's scarier and worse that the people descended from Europeans who now exist largely on the left, I would say, the modern left, who nevertheless endorse those sentiments, won't say it out loud, but behave as if the Jews should be exterminated, or the Jews should be certainly removed from Israel.
100%.
They think that Israel is an illegitimate nation. They think that it was created in 1947. They think that Jews do not have any historic connection to that particular area of land. Now, why do they think that? Because, and again, this is your wheelhouse, they have been taught that from mother's knee throughout primary school, high school, even if it's not explicitly taught, they're going to hear that lesson. And by the time they get to university, if they go to university, they're absolutely going to be taught that explicitly.
And I'm not even talking about Israel. Like I'm just talking about. I remember when the Jews were hunted in the street. And, you know, again, the smallest quote unquote microaggression, if you buy that or not, the smallest thing, I'm not going to name the name of my former university, would, you know, put out endless strings of tweets and papers and councils and all the stuff of like, you know, people are literally beating Jews. And I tweeted out, why don't you condemn it? Again, nothing to do with Israel, nothing. You could not even find Israel on a map or even know that, like, if someone is being beaten for who they are, you should condemn it. But of course there's no condemnation because they're rabid Jew haters.
They won't say they're Jew haters. They might very well say they're anti-Zionist because to be anti-Zionist is the polite way to say that I hate the Jews.
Right. So I don't know. Like, it just seems so obvious to me that we need to have an honest conversation. And again, for the fucking billionth time, it is not all Muslims, but it is a significant number of people that causes one to say, we have a problem here. There is a problem and we need to be honest about it. But every time I say that, people lose their fucking minds. Nazi, me, the Nazi.
Not the Jews are Nazis now.
Yeah, I'm a bigot. I'm a racist. What? Because I don't want people beaten for like. It's so and that we give these people any countenance at all is insane to me. Like they have literally nothing to contribute to the conversation. Zero.
And again, I keep coming back to this idea of why is it tolerated? Why is it that the media establishment, the political establishment, the intellectual elites are all on the side of, no matter how, well, they make sometimes polite noises now and again that, you know, the Islamists might have gone too far in this particular case. But in general, the support for Islam over, let's say, the Jews, it's black and white obvious the way in which they're talked about in the media. It's always that there's somehow Jewish aggression or Israeli aggression. And so we marinate, and children and teenagers and young people marinate in this culture of a media bias, a political bias, an intellectual bias, where they rarely hear any defense of Enlightenment values or of Judaism, or of Jews, or of the one place, I know you said that it's not really necessarily about Israel, but it is bizarre that the one shining beacon of the Enlightenment that exists in the Middle East at the moment is Israel. It's the only place where if you're a gay person, you're trans, whatever it happens to be, you'll be safe in Tel Aviv. You only have to go...
That's what my son said, he's gay, yeah.
Right, 100 miles in either direction, and you'll be thrown off a rooftop. The only reason they're not throwing people off rooftops in Palestine at the moment is because there's no rooftops left because of what they did on October 7.
Yeah. Okay, so you've met Brett Hall, the Australian educator, science educator, and I don't know, dare I say philosopher, I don't know. We're going to do some deep dives on some topics, so what are we going to talk about?
We can talk about the things I hope that I'm normally interested in, which is all to do with Karl Popper's epistemology, David Deutsch's oeuvre of work, everything about good explanations and error correction and how we can maintain Western civilization and the Enlightenment.
Memetics.
Memetics, absolutely.
And we're going to talk about our big disagreement from Dawkins, queerer than we can suppose. So it's going to be a deep dive on some epistemological issues.
Is it possible for us to understand absolutely anything, at least in principle?
We're ready. So keep watching.